to go through them kind of quickly because there's obviously 7, but we'll go through the ones that I think are kind of overlapped a little bit quicker. But the first problem is knowing what's worth knowing. So testing seems logical, but knowing what is actually worth putting on the test is kind of difficult. So this is a test that I found, a standardized test to pass 8th grade. So what do you guys think about those questions?
Define where it stands in a paragraph. I mean,
Yeah, so you had to do these to pass 8th grade. So now this was from a while ago, it was like in the 1900s or something like that, but it just goes to show you that people in power determine what worth knowing, and obviously it often turns wrong or erroneous over time, so was it really worth teaching them at the time anyway? So that's the first problem with it. Second problem is teaching to the test. So there's a lot of evidence that what is going on in schools is more test prep and less learning. And a result of that is the curriculum is being reduced accordingly, so people are spending less time on certain subjects because they're not being tested, and it doesn't mean that those things aren't important, but they're just not tested. So, in a study of 1,000 teachers, 2/3 believes that their students are way too focused on standardized testing, and 85% of teachers believe their school gives less attention to those subjects that are not on the test, just because they're not on the test. Some of the subjects that are de-emphasized are music, art, social studies, and foreign language. And in the time that we should be teaching these, 79% of the teachers acknowledge they're spending their time teaching test prep skills, having their students practice from prior tests, commercial test prep, which we talked about, test taking tips, even teaching their students how to fill out answer sheets correctly. When scores do get better, 3/4 of teachers believed that the responsibility for the high scores was test prep, not student knowledge or motivation. So that's a problem. The other problem is that when items on tests are reused over, scores get higher, but anything that's introduced new, scores get lower. So it shows that students are actually being coached on the things that were already on the test before. So are we really teaching them anything? Problem 3, standardized test results do not equal educational accountability. So, as he was kind of saying, federal testing is not really based on any wisdom or principles that we have in school practice. In the early stages of the testing movement, assessment was more expansive, but it's since been eliminated because of money. So now it's just kind of like a testing tyranny. So a lot of schools, you have to pass certain tests to graduate or to go on to the next level, which gives us the idea about holding students back. But we know that the single strongest predictor of whether students will drop out is actually retention and grade. So when we hold students back, they do worse academically, they do worse socially, and they are far more likely to drop out. So the fact that we're using a test to judge them is pretty tough. Problem 4 is about testing when testing fails. There's a lot of different examples on here about like if the key answers incorrectly or the answer sheets are wrong or things like that. There's a lot of avenues for flaws to occur in testing. And so if you look on here, for instance, in Minnesota, this guy's daughter missed the math standardized test by 1 point, so he like sued and like went and looked at the test, and it turned out that 6 answers on the test were keyed incorrectly for all of the Minnesota students. So there was like a huge lawsuit, like $7 million were paid out. So it's a huge problem. But I mean, just think about like, there was one answer key problem that forced 9,000 students to take summer school when they shouldn't have had. That's money, that's obviously unhappy students, that's more teachers needed to teach over the summer. So it's obviously a big problem. So you just can't help but wonder how many students and schools and teachers have been affected by problems that testing just has. Problem 5 is the gap problem, using the same test for all students. Students of color, students with disabilities, English language learners, and low-income students fail these tests 60 to 90% more than the other students. For instance, in Georgia, 2 out of every 3 low-income students fail math, English, and reading sections, while none of the students from the better counties failed the tests, and half of them exceeded the standards. 6 is test sterilization. So while standardized tests say that they're trying to improve achievement for all students, the tests themselves ignore diversity. The example I found was the MCAS. It's a world history test. Of the 57 questions on the test, 40 of them were about Europe and 5 were about capitalism. So that's 80% of the world history test. 12 of them were about the world, and even those examples were greatly reduced. For instance, the question about Africa had them labeling a desert, where no people actually had any history, and Latin America is shown as a colonial appendage of Europe. 77% of African American students fail this, 85% of Latinos fail that.
77. And how many Latinos?
85.
85.
And then when they looked at the passages from like memoirs and things like that, they're obviously very, very important. They're scrubbed clean of race, religion, so when students are answering, these questions are super doctored anyway, so it's not like they're actually answering the correct questions. Lastly is teacher stress. Obviously, rather than focusing on the teacher's professional knowledge, administrators are seeking out shortcuts. They're kind of trying to make teachers to be compliant technicians in which ways they can get better results. It's tough for the teachers. 7 out of 10 teachers report significant test stress. 2 out of 3 believe that standardized testing is taking too much time away from vitally important topics. Teachers are leaving, they're going to the private sector where test prep does not rule curriculum. And this is kind of a really big one that I thought. In Arizona, they had 80 teachers they asked them to visually depict the impact of standardized tests. And the kind of 3 themes that all of them they all conglomerated at was that their classrooms were driven by boredom, fear, and isolation. They believed that they were shortchanging students from a love of learning because of standardized testing.